Welcome back to the Great Imposters Podcast.
Hello.
Welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, hello, hi, welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to the fun. My name's Joelle.
My name's Annie.
And we talk about imposter syndrome. We talk about everything related to imposter syndrome, living it, breathing it, working through it, and honestly, just putting it out there so we can all just get to living our best lives.
Yes. You've probably heard a lot about imposter syndrome recently because we like to say we started it.
We started it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But we're not sure if it's like when you get a red car and then all you see on the street are red cars,
Yes.
or if imposter syndrome is like truly blowing up right now. But
we're in the zeitgeist.
we're in the zeitgeist
of
wow.
imposter syndrome.
Gosh.
I know. Well, today's episode is really exciting. We are completing a trilogy.
Yes,
I guess
trilogy.
you could say. And Annie, why don't you tee it up?
So we have a really important guest today. We have Vanessa Edwards of Strength Sanctuary. She is the founder of Strength Sanctuary, which is a gym. She is a female business owner in Nashville. She is a just pioneer in the fitness world, especially in Nashville, and she has a really great story to tell us that has lots of imposter syndrome woven throughout. And I think that she's a guest that, like, obviously, like I said, she's very important to me because I've been going to her gym for about 4 years now, but she also just has so much wisdom and amazing things to share with our audience, and especially as it pertains to the trilogy of, you know, feeling your best self in your person. So
love it.
We're so excited to have you.
Yes, welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you. So excited to be here and to be a part of this conversation.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we like to start with a little bit of a fun, like, icebreaker opener.
Okay.
Just to get our juices flowing.
Let's flow.
This is going to be, we haven't asked this one yet. It's a good one. Ready?
Okay.
What is your coffee order?
Coffee order. Ooh. I love a let's see, a cold brew, like sweet cream.
yeah.
From where?
Situation.
Like, does it matter? Or
Really doesn't matter. I think mostly I'll go to like Starbucks.
Okay. Funny, because we like to ask questions that Annie and I like are, sometimes we like ones that we agree hard on, and
Yeah.
this one, not that we disagree, we're just like, we order coffee differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite differently.
So what's the order?
I'm hot black.
Hot black.
But like,
All
I don't
right.
even like. I would rather just make hot black coffee at my house.
I get that. That's a good point.
So you want an experience. You want like a
Yeah.
But I don't usually get hot black at Starbucks, but I get like Perch and Green Hills, it's not called Peaches, don't ask. Like the Well Coffee House, like all these little local ones, they have the best beans and they just have like a level.
Okay.
You know what I mean? This
So
is
you're
just
kind of like, you're a little bit of an aficionado too, you think? Of coffee?
maybe an elitist.
An elitist.
Sure, yeah.
This feels a little New Yorker too. Like,
Which is
black
funny 'cause
coffee.
This is new. It's only since I've lived in Nashville that I've cared. And I will say I do have a superiority complex about the fact that I drink black coffee.
You do. So does my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. You both are like, well, no, my husband doesn't even drink coffee.
Yeah.
Doesn't drink any caffeine anymore.
What a
which-
loser.
That's another
I
tangent.
do feel like that people who do drink black coffee, they're like,
Yes.
you know, like they're like,
No, like,
just
I'm
have
better.
the superiority.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Robbie's a black coffee drinker.
Is
My
he?
husband, and he thinks it's so like, it's like this interesting.
it is this weird like feather in my cap.
It
Like,
is.
Yes.
But okay, here's my question though. Like, well, so first of all, my coffee order,
Yeah,
Joelle's
what's yours?
husband and I, when we all went on vacation together, like Chad and I, like a
cinnamon roll latte.
like a Milky Way latte.
super
Yeah.
sweet.
Like,
yeah.
isn't his order, I think his order at Peaches, isn't it like a Milky Way?
It's something like that.
Yeah. So I like, if I'm going to buy coffee, I'm like, I want this to be special, you know?
Yeah.
I'm on the oat milk train. I'm now on the oat milk train. Yeah. If anybody has seen on my Instagram, my hormonal acne journey, a lot of people say cut out dairy, so that sucks. So I've been doing oat milk as much as I can.
Okay.
Yeah. But okay, so when you buy a black coffee,
Yes.
isn't it like 99 cents?
No.
It should
not?
be.
It's expensive. It should be, but
Okay.
I have respect for the bean, you know?
You
Yeah.
just respect
I
the
really
bean.
You can
do.
taste it when
Yes.
it's black. Like I do love a black
I'm a-
coffee.
that's-
because you can taste the flavor, like
Yes.
what's coming through.
Yeah.
Like all of that. Like you get to
Yeah.
experience the coffee.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's like when I don't want elitist and purist might be along the same, like I love just like
there you go.
tasting the coffee. I'm not trying to like water it down with anything.
Oh, see, I'm like, put I want you to liquefy a Milky Way bar
and dump it into
and
my
put
coffee.
it in my drink, and I'm gonna pay $7 for it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, that's what I love about like Starbucks, like cold brew, like cream.
Yeah.
They'll put the cream on top, and then you see like the black on the bottom, and then the cream on top, and so you can kind of see it just like melt.
It's very
into
satisfying.
like the blackness.
It is.
And you're just like, oh, this is so good.
I love it. I knew we would have this conversation would have legs.
I know, it's important.
I'm glad. Well, I think that's a good icebreaker. Let's
is.
get into the meat of the episode.
Put that in our pocket.
Yes.
That good one.
So Vanessa, let's just start off. Let's hear your stats and your story, your name, your age, where you grew up, where you're at, anything you want to tell the audience and us.
So Vanessa Edwards, 44 years old. I am a very curious creature. I like to call myself.
true.
A deep thinker. Love connecting with people. Big dreamer. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, so I am a very like wild at heart kind of person that just is not afraid to try most things. And I am a mother, an animal mother. So I have 2 dogs, Hugo and Mia, and a cat named Willow. I am a wife of almost 20 years to Robbie Edwards, who owns and operates his own business, the Kingston Group. He's a builder in Nashville, and a local. And who else am I? I founded and own and operate a gym called Strength Sanctuary in West Nashville, in the heart of Charlotte Park neighborhood, and been a personal trainer.
Up and coming area.
Yes. Yeah, we have a bagel shop now.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It's happening.
Yeah. And who else am I? I've been a personal trainer for over 10 years, and I am just a relentless student of the human experience as far as like in the physical and the mental space, helping people. I'm very passionate about helping people connect with like a different version of themselves that helps them deal and process with, things like the imposter syndrome. So I am also someone that definitely identifies strongly with the imposter syndrome big time. And before I came here, I want your listeners to also know this is the second time that I'm doing this because of my imposter syndrome. It's pretty bad. And
but it's not bad.
Right.
It's just there.
It's really intense. It's really intense.
That's
really
what
intense.
it is, yeah.
And it's crazy because before I came here, I was talking to my husband about it, going over my questions, the things that you guys sent, and I was preparing for it. And I was like, I think I need to do some research on imposter syndrome because I really think that I really don't really deal with that, I don't think, because I'm just like really confident. And I was just like in this like groove. And when I got here the first time, I was like, came in and watched Tiff like do her thing. And I was like, the fuck you don't. The fuck you don't, bitch. Like you have some major problems. And I just went into the spiral and went into the talk and went into the space of where I just could not come back out of it.
Okay. So Tiffany from our last episode is also a client of Vanessa's and I guess a workout colleague of Annie's, right? And that's like the worst way I could have put that. But we had Vanessa and Tiffany come in, record the same day. Tiffany went first. Vanessa went second. For a lot of reasons, the episode didn't feel like what we thought it should, all of us. And so we're back recording it again. That's what Vanessa's referring to, just so you're all kind of filled in.
Yeah.
And some of it's imposter syndrome. Some of it's me and Annie were just a little all over the place that day. So it's all
a little sprinkle of it all.
But we're back and we're doing it.
Yeah. Doing it again.
But I love that you just right out the gate shared that because that's such a powerful story that like you're sitting there with your husband, Robbie, and you're like, I don't know. Like, cause a lot of our guests come on and say that they're like, I don't know if I have imposter syndrome as I'm going through the questions y'all sent us, but it comes out in these different ways. And I think, for you, like this, we'll get into this, of course, but this transition you've made of now being, a founder and a business owner brings out more impostery feelings probably than you've experienced in like 10 years, because it's so, to be a business owner is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
vulnerable.
High stakes.
Yeah.
Very
vulnerable.
high stakes. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's all you.
Yeah, it's
all
you.
you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing I love about how you said that you connect with people, that is so true. Like Vanessa is one of those people that sudden, like you walk in and you're like, you're just doing your workout and there's probably something on your mind. And then like Vanessa doesn't even have to do anything, but she just has like one of those faces and like that energy that before you know it, you're like, it did really suck. It did suck. And I am kind of sad about your job is inherently like also a therapist. Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But you do a good job. Like you make space for that in your gym without letting it derail somebody's kind of what they're there to do, which is get a good workout in.
Yeah. It's very delicate. It's because that's who I'm working with. I see it on people. I see these versions of themselves show up.
Yeah.
And then I understand what their goals are. Their mature self, this person that they want to develop. They want to feel more confident. They want to feel stronger. They want to feel better. And then I'm also dealing with their managers, these people that are dealing with all the things, the voices in their heads, all of this. And so it's like I've got to deal with that version of them. And I also am trying to empower their stronger version of themselves. So it's kind of like dancing delicately with all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably a good segue for our favorite question here at the podcast, which is, what are you great at?
I think it's that. It's just seeing people for who they are and who they want to be, and then connecting with people and letting them know like, hey, like I've done this, like I know what this feels like, vulnerability, depth and connection, and really allowing people to feel safe. I feel like is something that I'm really good at. Hospitality, serving people well.
I think that's so huge too, because especially in the type of gym that you own, which is pretty strength focused, right? I know you do a lot of things, but it's very much a strength. It's called Strength Sanctuary, so you would think so. And a lot of time, I feel like any strength facility I've ever walked into is very transactional. Yeah, like here's a weight, lift the weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that I don't connect with that at all, because that's like you're literally just using your body. You're not using your mind, your soul, your spirit, your intuition.
Yeah, it's not intuitive.
Your compassion.
So I feel like that's a really unique blend of modalities in fitness and kind of overall health.
Right. Just helping people connect with that why is really important, and helping like really just meeting people where they're at. And let's figure out your way of moving. Yeah. And you're just not coming in to fit my way. Like you're unique. Everyone is unique. Everyone, needs to be seen, and let's figure out how your body moves, and let's find her way or his way.
Yeah.
You know,
your experience, you as a trainer, is the opposite of transactional. It's really amazing. It's like there is spirituality to it. Like there's so much more. And I love so Vanessa's so when Vanessa went out on her own, her first gym was called Precision Movement RX.
Yeah.
So it had like a prescription part of it. And I love being one of your clients for long enough now that I've watched this transition where you went from that gym to your new space where you got to rename it Strength Sanctuary. Because like, first of all, let's just look at the dichotomy of those two names. Precision Movement RX.
I know.
And Strength Sanctuary. Like that was so not what you do.
No.
Because there are so many people, like you said, Joelle, who go do, a scan and find out they don't have great bone density, or, their doctor tells them they need to start doing resistance or strength. And so they do come in almost with a prescription RX mentality, and they want it to be transactional. And you have found a way to not do that, to like you said, to meet someone where they're at and make it a safe sanctuary like space. So kudos to you for naming it so apropos.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it really just when I first went out on my own, it was really hard to figure out like, what is the name? Yeah. Like, what is that? And I was just like all over the place, and I just got to choose something, get it out there, start going, figure it out as you go. And as I was with that name, it's just like, it feels so like stiff. Yeah. It feels stiff, and it doesn't feel as wild and creative as how I see myself. Yeah. And it just took me a long time to figure that out. And it's just like moving forward, like just trying to get in it and then figuring out that name, because it's a very like, I think we're still in this industry, like trying to figure out what is the right or what is a really great way of approaching like movement and like we need to, I really enjoy looking at these markers that help us understand why do I feel tired? Why this, like the why behind it. So some of the science is important to me as a coach. And then helping people process that science and those tests and stuff like that to help like apply action or knowledge that does help them feel like their body is a sanctuary, like to them.
I love that. Did you see, like when you were a kid, did you always have this in you? Like, did you always want to be in fitness or did you always want to be in helping people?
I think it started like a little bit more traumatic than that, because I was always considered to be like, I grew up in the 90s, so where women were obsessed with like being thin, and obsessed with their bodies, looking perfect, perfectionism, and I had a ton of aunts that I grew up with, and so lots of women in our family, very women heavy, and so they were always talking about bodies, what diet they were on,
Weight
what
Watchers,
drug they
Slim
were
Fast,
on.
all of it. Yeah.
Yes, hydroxycut was a big one.
Oh my God, I forgot about hydroxycut.
Oh my
It
God.
almost killed us, in high school.
Oh God.
And so it was a very toxic, like, image. Like I was called the ugly duckling in my family.
Oh my God.
One day you'll be
that.
pretty or try to be pretty this time, Birdie. My family calls me Birdie. So a lot of it was like, you got to be fit, you got to be pretty, you got to be all these things. And so I think it like that was kind of pushing me like, well, you got to like, so what is pretty? Like what is healthy? Like what is thin, not healthy? That wasn't healthy wasn't a thing back then. So I think it started with that. And I loved moving I loved playing basketball. And back in the day I thought like, well, you can be like, what about being a physical therapist? And then I told myself no, because you don't look like, you're not healthy. You don't look, because I was overweight in my youth. And so I'm like, well, no, you can't, because you're not thin. So you can't be a personal trainer, or you can't be a physical therapist.
Which is textbook imposter syndrome.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. And textbook 90s child.
That too, yeah.
Yes.
It would be full circle 90s if you were like, okay, I'll be a marine biologist.
Right. That's what every kid wanted to be.
Yeah.
I think I did that too. I think I was going.
Oh my
It
God,
was
that's
always
so much.
kids from like landlocked places like Tucson too. Like they get to college like, I just want to see a whale.
That was on the list.
That's hysterical.
I got a long list.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think
Wow.
it started from that, and just like, you got to figure out how to be pretty.
Yeah.
How to be thin.
Yeah.
And you just better do it and be obedient to what's important
Yes.
in life.
A lot of when we did our body image survey to our listeners, one of the questions we asked was around like, what do you attribute, poor body image or feeling bad about yourself? Like, what are some of the things that you attribute that to? And one of the options was, our mothers or the women that we grew up with in the 90s or even 80s. And a lot of people said like that had such a huge impact on how they viewed themselves, because that decade was so detrimental for women, period.
It was not our time.
It was not a good time.
Not a good time to be a woman.
Yeah. So when you were little, would you say like the first thing you wanted to be was a physical therapist, or was there other little Vanessa dreams?
Professional basketball player.
Okay.
But yeah, like physical therapist was like a big one.
Okay.
Because I have scoliosis.
That's
and
right.
so I was diagnosed with that when I was like 12.
Oh, wow.
So they found it. And then I was supposed to wear a brace and like all of that. So yeah, so I was just built, a little twisted. And so physical therapist was like, oh, I can go and like really learn about this, like study this and like really dive deep into that and just help other people who deal with chronic pain.
So,
Wow.
I remember doing the scoliosis tests, like in the locker room and stuff. But is the diagnosis when they find scoliosis, you can't really correct it, right? Or what's...
If they find it young.
Okay.
If they find it young. So that's why they test it like third grade, third through like sixth, third through eighth, like when we're growing big time.
You can correct it
So
with braces.
You keep your eyes on the babies.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just like make them bend over, touch their toes, and just like look at their spine.
Okay.
So that's what they're doing. I'm just looking for any curvature or twist in the body. So they found it. And so once they find it when you're young, like then they put you in this big brace.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, what was it, 16 Candles?
Uh-huh.
Remember, I forget the actress's name, that she was in one. And
Molly
so
Ringwald.
her neck was like, creak.
Yeah.
And so like mine wasn't that bad, but it covered I was supposed to be in it for 23 hours out of the day. Yeah, 23 hours out of the day. It was like a shell, and it went up from like back of my neck, like here, all the way down, and it basically is holding you into place to brace you, so that way you grow, and as you're growing, that you'll grow straight. That's their understanding of it back then. Science is way improved now.
Wow.
So I never wore it. I was like, screw that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to school in this.
And you're
Like, this
probably
isn't
like,
happening.
you're probably not alone in that. Like there were probably so many kids that were like, screw this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're just walking around this huge like thing, and you're just like.
So how have you managed it?
So I just told my doctors when I was young, I was like, I'm just going to have surgery.
Okay.
I'll have surgery when I get older. No big deal. And they're like, you don't understand what you're saying. I'm like, okay. I was like 12.
Yeah.
So now I would just, my parents were going to have the surgery when I was 16, and it was a big deal. They're going to cut you from your neck to your booty, and just cut you open and take your spine and pretty much bolt it down. Like you're basically becoming Wolverine. Nails through your spine and rods that are supporting your spine. So to try to make you a little bit straighter. So I would grow 4 inches, which I thought that was really cool. 4 inches, 3 to 4 inches.
Oh
my torso
goodness.
would. My legs are for a 5'10" body, but my torso has been shrunk because of my twists. I show you a picture. You've seen it.
Yeah.
It's really wild.
Yeah.
It's really, really wild.
Part of Vanessa's training right now is some of us that go to, some of the colleagues at her gym, we're doing DEXA scans and VO2 max testing. And DEXA scan is like a really intense X-ray, essentially, where you can see fat, bone density, and muscle volume. And Vanessa posted her scan, and so you can see the S spine. And so many people just on my own Instagram are like, whose spine is that? What's going on? Yeah, it's like, it's really like, it's
So you did not get the surgery.
Did not get the surgery.
not.
My parents decided to not get the surgery.
Okay.
I think that they just like were too freaked out. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I would be
like
too,
they wouldn't know
yeah.
how to like deal with their child like in this much
I
pain.
can't even imagine. Yeah.
So we moved forward, and I'm just like, I was just left to deal with it, figure it out. And so it's just chronic pain. It's a lot of chronic, constant pain.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I was like, well, you just have to figure this out. Chiropractors, physical therapists, endlessly say that you just have to work out, manage your weight, core. And so I'm like, this has to just become my life.
Yeah.
And in order for me to manage this, it has to be my life. I manage it through a ton of education, movement, and it's constantly changing once I feel like I figured it out. I haven't. And recently I went and saw a surgeon recently just to see, like, is this inevitable? Am I going to have surgery? And he's like, no. So he's like, and so that just leaves you thinking like, so I have a lot of, I think, a deep relationship with the physical body because of that. So my body is deformed. It is twisted. It is in pain. So instead of ignoring her, like I have to continue to be in relationship with her and figuring out how do I live with it, or I can go on pain meds for the rest of my life.
Right.
And just be a zombie potentially.
Right.
And not be present and not participate in life. So I've chosen to try to figure it out, manage it through movement. And a lot of people are in pain. A lot of people are in pain. So I'm not alone. So we all deal with pain. It's some version of pain. So when it comes to like having a relationship with your body, sometimes we're super frustrated.
Yeah.
We don't understand it. We don't understand our pain.
Yeah.
And so it was just a passion that I continue to pursue and educate myself on. Well, you've just got to deal with it. And you just have to be in relationship, move towards it instead of moving away from it and trying to ignore that it's there.
Well, because I think as a society, especially with women as they get like into 40s and 50s, we are pretty dismissive of pain. Like we just assume that there's certain, even like menopause, we've heard now that it's just sort of like, yeah, it's going to suck. So
Whiny women.
deal with it. Yeah. Whiny women.
Yep.
And that's how, not to be too dark, but like that's how we got into the opiate crisis situation we've been in, where it's like, here, take this pill, feel better. And so I just think your why that you've just expressed of you want to help people feel their best through different modalities is really, really inspiring. And it's so needed because pain is as much as it's obviously physical, it's very mentally taxing. It's so hard. Yeah. And I think that your why is just, everybody kind of needs to hear that. That's really inspiring.
I think it's just so important to everyone to figure out what that why is.
Yeah.
And that we all have these huge expectations of our physical. Are they our expectations? Are they culture expectations? Like, whose expectations are these?
Yeah.
But when your body's calling you like, hey, I'm in pain, and you continue to mute that pain, if you mute it and mute it and mute it, you can never really figure it out.
Sure.
And if you keep muting it, like, who are you? What are you? And I just didn't want that for my life.
Yeah.
Like, even the expectations of, like, another way, like, you can say, like, my body potentially failed me was that I'm also wasn't able to have children. So I also dealt with that. So my body wasn't able to do that either.
Yeah.
And so when you think about, like, okay, I expect this. Like, I expect this to happen. I expect my body to not be in pain. I expect my body to at least give me children. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you gave me this other thing. Now you got to do this.
Right.
And so there's a ton of reasons why, like, you can either choose to hate your body or be in like fight mode with your body.
Yep.
Or you can choose healing and choosing acceptance and compassion. And we all deal with it.
Yeah.
And in some way or some version of it, we all have a story with our bodies.
Yeah.
And what is it?
Thank you for sharing that, because what we, again, going back to like what our listeners told us and what they've been telling us after, the first two episodes of this trilogy is that, like, just having these conversations and sharing these kinds of things is half of it. Like, because societally we have not really wanted to talk about the conflict that we are in with our inner selves and our bodies. And so, just being vulnerable and sharing that, like, we all go through these different things is really impactful.
I agree.
And I'm curious, knowing now that, like, knowing that you have scoliosis, knowing that you probably have this little Vanessa perception of yourself of not being enough, just from what you expressed to us, like, does just being a personal trainer with something like scoliosis, does that give you imposter syndrome? Like, are there times where you're like, I can't do this. I don't look like every other trainer, or that shows up a lot.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because your pain reminds you of of that also. So sometimes when my back like is really flared up, then I'm like, you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But there's this very like this part of the human spirit that is very strong in me that forces me to keep going and keep showing up and to keep developing and keep growing and having that growth mindset that I think that, and that's also part of like the imposter syndrome, is that you keep achieving and you keep proving to yourself that you can keep, like, that you belong. You keep proving and you keep achieving and you keep achieving. And so, and then there's a part of me that I'm a very disruptor when it comes to the whole image thing, is that I don't look the part. I really have no business sometimes.
Hasn't someone said that to you before? Like, haven't people said things like that to you in this industry? Yeah, that's awful.
Wait, what do you mean you don't look the part?
Well,
like, in terms of your spine?
In terms of, I think, just the physique.
Oh, really?
Like a physique way. Like, and like, if you don't look the part, if you're not thin enough, or I used to just, when I first got in the industry, like, was just like controlled by that. Like that, I remember like having like consultations with new clients, like, you got to look the part. Like, do you think you look thin enough, or you better because otherwise they're not going to want to train with you if you don't like look it. And I'm like, but then like the more mature I got, because I'm like, I told myself, okay, well, if you're not going to be the skinniest, then you got to be the strongest.
Sure.
And then like my back limits me of being like whatever is the strongest. So, well, you can't be the strongest because you have scoliosis and you have limitations. And I'm like, well, then what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, why are you still holding space? Like, why are you even here? And I'm like, wait, I'm just an ordinary girl, like, doing ordinary things, like just doing normal things, holding space for people who are just want to belong in this space.
Yes.
We're not going to be the strongest. We're not going to be the thinnest, but we are showing up and working on ourselves.
I want everyone who just listened to that to like really take that in, because that is so affirming, I think, to anyone. Like, that's not to like make it about us, but we went back and forth for a year. Like, are we really going to do a podcast? Like, who are we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just in anything, in anything you do. And I get DMs about now all the time, because we do this podcast, of people being like, I want to do this, but like, who am I? You know what I mean? Kind of what you're saying. And it's like, you're you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Like, you can just do it. Like, it sounds so cheesy, but it's just so true. Like, you don't have to be the skinniest person in the world or the strongest person in the world to have a profound impact on your community.
Right. Yeah.
In the fitness world. Like, it's just, if anything, I would say you're at an advantage to make more of an impact on other people, because you've had these.
You're relatable.
You've had these, like, you know, certain challenges yourself. Whereas, like, you know, you go into a gym and like, it's just like a row of meathead trainers who like, are just like crushing like creatine and just like, this is a dumbbell, lift it up. Like, that's usually what it is. So that,
or even like you go into a Pilates class in Nashville and everybody has a matching beautiful black, you know,
like aloe set
on, or like they just look immaculate and they're thin and they're 22 and you're like, wait, I can't do this Pilates class. Like, those feelings are so pervasive in fitness and in health.
And they're disruptive, and
they're disruptive.
And they get you tangled up and twisted. So I always tell people, it's like, if you just start, like, if you guys just started your podcast, let's just start. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, as we're in it and as you're going. Like, you just figure it out as you're in it and as you're doing and as you're going. Like, that's when you're figuring it out.
Yes.
Like, don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait till you think you've got it all figured out.
Yes.
And then you just, you know, correct and grow and learn while you're in it.
Yep.
I mean, this is a kind of a full circle example of that. Like, all three of us did a run of this conversation and we didn't love it, so we did it again.
Yeah,
like that's like we course corrected and
learned from it,
and here we are.
Yeah.
I think I want to share with the listeners like an actual example of how you've helped someone else overcome like a mobility issue. So I'm gonna do what I do best on here, which is throw my husband's personal story into the world. But my husband Andre, he started with Vanessa with me around 4 years ago. Which, can you believe it's gonna be 4 years?
That's
wild.
So you were postpartum with
2020.
Postpartum, 4 months postpartum with Mags. We had just moved to Nashville. The story of how I found Vanessa is very kismet to me, because her husband Robbie's company, the Kingston Group, was remodeling our house. They did a beautiful job. And that wasn't even how I met Vanessa, right? So he was like, oh yeah, my wife's a personal trainer. And I was like, cool. And then we were renting in the Nations, which is a neighborhood in Nashville down the street from Vanessa's gym. And our landlord, his name was Josh, is a friend of Vanessa's who was helping her get her new gym set up. And so he came back really sweaty one day to do something landlordy. And I was like, oh, where do you work out? Because we were looking for a gym. He's like, oh, my friend Vanessa's opening a gym down the street. You guys should go. And then I was like, Vanessa. And I had remembered Robbie's wife. And then he was like, oh, yeah, like Kingston Group. They're doing your house. So it was like this crazy trifecta moment of how we found you and how I feel so connected to you.
Word of mouth.
My husband, Andre, is blessed with an excellent metabolism and has never had to worry about like weight management. But he's always looking to build strength, as many men are. And when he started with Vanessa, I think he went in there like most men do, of just like, all right, let's get some biceps and, let's get some monster calves.
Some pecs.
Okay, here's the first hang loose. We made it like 30 minutes into this episode before hang loose came out this time.
I'm really proud of
What's
you.
happening?
I don't know.
Wow. They're here though. They're here now. Now they're not going to stop.
They're always here.
They're always here. Yeah. But, and Andre had an injury as a kid, so his hips are not aligned.
He broke his right femur.
Yeah. So his one leg shorter than the other. Mm-hmm. He had some curvature in his spine on the bottom and then kind of at the top. Anyway, sorry, listeners. I digress. But he went to you thinking, he would, like in other strength settings, they'd just be like, here's dumbbell, lift. And you were like, whoa, dude, we got to work on mobility. And we got to work on flexibility, and we need to kind of get down to basics before we can safely start doing the strength things you want to do. Mm-hmm. And that was like an 8-9 month journey.
Yeah.
And he stuck with it because you have all the data and the research and the why that he was like, okay, cool, I do need to do this first. Whereas he could have just gone to another meathead gym and they would have been like, here's dumbbell, you know?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that real life testimonial.
I love that.
Is that your Arnold voice?
That was
Here's dumbbell, lift it.
Here's dumbbell,
like, there's dumbbell, lift dumbbell.
I just
Lift it. Hang loose.
I just can't believe that that's so unique to find. Like, I'm grateful that you exist, but are you ever surprised that like this isn't everyone's approach? Because I feel like it should be.
I don't know, because I think it is going in that direction.
Yeah.
Because as coaches, like we're all growing together.
Sure.
And I know so many great coaches out there in Nashville that are also aligned in that.
Oh, that's
so
good.
we're all trying to just like, because when I got Andre, I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
what are we going to do with this one? You know, I've got to figure this out, you know, and each person is such a puzzle to me to unlocking, because again, you're dealing with like their protectors, you're dealing with their physical like pain, and then you're dealing with their mindset. And it's like, you got to figure each person out, and the prescription is different for each person. So it's like, oh man, I got to just, okay, what are we going to do with this one? And then I got to keep him excited. You know, he is a dude. He does want to do some freaking bench.
Yeah.
But I really got to get that right hip unlocked because it's really twisted. And so it's giving people what they want, because they still want a little bit of that.
Yeah.
You know, and then giving them what they need.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity, stuff like that. And then Andre just went and got an X-ray recently, and his bottom like curvature is gone, and
Wow.
in his top.
You fixed him.
And I don't even know, like I wasn't even like
But you were unlocking his hip, which is what did it. Yeah.
I was like hip, right foot, and like all this. I'm obsessed with people's feet. But
she's got a foot
I was gonna say,
fetish.
if someone clips that.
like not in a foot fetish way, kind of.
Send her your feet pics.
Gosh, your feet are really interesting.
They're very important.
They're very important.
Yeah. And apparently we've been like jamming ourselves into shitty sneakers for decades, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what are shitty sneakers that we've been jamming into?
You want your toes to
Like my
spread?
shoes that I have right now, Vivo, are really great. Well, you want a wide toed box.
Okay.
A wide toe box, and you want to wear a toe spacers. So if you're in the yoga world, because I feel like you love
like
your
yoga,
yoga. So toe spacers, get some, wear them, and get those toes to spread out, because we trained our feet to be squished.
Interesting.
And so, and that is your balance. That is, it follows up the chain.
I was also a ballet dancer, so I was on point.
Man, yeah.
I mean, it's been a very long time, but like point shoes are literally like the worst possible thing for your foot.
Yes.
So yes, I used to have, and I have a really high arch, so I used to fuck up my feet all the time when I was. Yeah.
Now you can
like
take
picture
care of them.
it.
Yeah.
All right, tell us a little bit about how you got from normal Vanessa. Well, you're still normal, but like, how did you get into the fitness world? Because like you didn't go to school for physical therapy, so how did you tell us about that journey a little bit?
I finished actually like my degree at Belmont in business. So originally I wanted to come to Nashville to be in the music business. As my journey was like taking me, my back was like calling me to action. I got in the music business for about a year. And while I was in that, I was working with a personal trainer, and it was really helping me. So it was just an enlightened like moment and time in my life where I'm like, wow, this is so healing. And I really feel like I belong here more so than the music industry. So I was following my dream to be in the music industry. And by doing that and walking through that and walking into that, I realized that I belonged more in this arena than in the music industry.
Yeah.
So I told my personal trainer at the time, Daniel Ming, who owns MoveFit Personal Training, a really great studio, great teacher, that I wanted to be a personal trainer. I was so nervous telling him. I just like, it was the whole imposter thing. I was just like, I can't tell him. And it took me forever to tell him, because the belonging thing, like what if he rejects me? What if he says I'm too fat? Or what if he says I'm too, whatever, not strong enough,
female
or whatever.
Too female.
Yeah, too
much of a woman.
Could you be more masculine for us, please? No, but he was so great. And so he welcomed me, and and just allowed me to have his platform to become what I am today.
That's amazing. Wow. I want to ask you about the transition because I think a lot of people will hear that and say, there was something that you said, I feel like I belonged more in that world than the world I was currently in making money in. I could probably guarantee 60%, maybe it's high, but 60% of people listening to this feel the same way. Like they're not doing what they're meant to do or what they feel like they belong in. It's very hard logistically to make that jump, right? Like, of course, in the perfect world, we'd all snap our fingers, be done with our day job and live our dream.
Yeah.
But that's not how life works. That's not how the world works. That's not how personal finances work. So can you walk us through a little bit of like, how you made that transition? Were you doing two things at once at one time, or did you just up and quit one day in your music job and start becoming a trainer?
I think circumstances and privilege and all of that kind of come into play. I tried to save money when I worked at Costco, had a 401k, and just kind of saved for that.
Okay.
And so as I went into the music industry, I made nothing. So that really didn't help, but I got married during this time.
Okay.
And my husband owns his own business as well. And he's an entrepreneur. So he understands like that heart, and he just was really supportive like during that time. So when I told, Robbie that I really wanted to pursue this and make this transition from this to this, he was like, okay, but we looked at our finances and just said, what do I need to make? And so that helped me go to my new boss at the time, Daniel, being like, hey, like, how do I need to, like, how can I make some money here?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you got to hunt it. What you kill is yours, and here's what I can
finding
help.
clients.
Yeah. Okay. Finding clients, so just pursued that relentlessly. And so I kind of did both for a little bit where I was in the music industry, getting my certification, kind of plugging in a little bit of trying to find clients and stuff like that, and just kind of building that book. And then also just, having a partner that supported me during that time was a big part of that.
That's awesome.
And he was like, I think we can do this. We lived very minimally. We cut our lifestyle back big time. We weren't taking extravagant trips. We weren't spending money on just like cars and stuff like that.
Sure.
You should have seen when I drove. So just sacrificing, making sacrifices lifestyle-wise was a big part of that as well.
And I think if anyone's single out there listening to this and you don't have the supportive partner, you could take that advice with yourself. Like, you just sit down, how badly do I want this? Number one.
Yeah.
What am I willing to sacrifice? Here's what I need to make in order to drop the day job.
Yeah.
So you really do have to sit with yourself and have that conversation.
Yeah. And cut out things in your life. Like, I don't need this. I don't need that. Make sacrifices. You have to make sacrifices, do the work, feel the pain, feel the uncomfortableness to grow.
Like, you don't need the coffee every day.
Like, where I came from was very poor. My parents were very poor. I had no money. They did not give me money. It is not something they even had to give anyway. So everything that I have achieved, I have paid for, I have worked for, and it's taken a long time. It just delayed gratification. Do the work, and what you want to happen for yourself will happen, but it might be like slower than what you expect. But it will happen.
I love that. You talk about that a lot in the gym, and like just being your friend, you use these examples throughout your life. Like, you talk a lot about how you have to be uncomfortable sometimes. Like, you have to be uncomfortable, and you also have to, be in not physically painful, but painful emotionally sometimes situations, because that's how you learn. Like, you learn through being uncomfortable. I'm just regurgitating your own lessons back to you while I make intense eye contact. But
connect.
But yes, I'm connecting. But like, that's been really you that has been a very powerful lesson for me. Like, I think everybody needs to take that to heart, that you're going to have to be uncomfortable in life.
Yes. Comfort is it's part of life. We need it, but it is also almost like the enemy of just like, you can't pursue comfort, entirely.
Yeah.
And if you look at your life, like uncomfortable things, trauma things happen. And if we get to the other side of that, if we don't get twisted and tangled up in it, then you can grow from it.
Yeah.
And if you look at your own life and situations, it's like, I can choose to grow. I'm either going to choose to walk through this discomfort or this hard thing, or I'm going to what? Not.
Right.
And stay stagnant forever.
Yeah.
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 I feel like the pipeline of like discomfort, growth, and then comfort is like this always like plateauing thing that just like gets you to your best self. And I think one thing that's like helpful to know when you're in the discomfort is to know the way the pipeline works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I try to help clients understand that, even through programming. With my programming, it's like we have like, not every workout is ramped up, and we're not like killing ourselves like every time. So there's a little bit of that. There's like this wave of like, this is going to be really hard today, or this is, So we go through these days where like today's more about restorative recovery, but like tomorrow's we're ramping it up. This is development day, or this is restorative day. And that's just like, it's so applicable like in life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. I feel like your imposter syndrome throughout your life has shown up in so many unique and typical imposter syndrome ways that this is great. One thing that has always struck me about you though is that not only do you have to deal with your own imposter syndrome, but every client that walks in your door, like you've said, brings their own form of imposter syndrome, especially in a strength setting, because it is very intimidating. Kettlebells are intimidating to people. Benching is intimidating, especially to women, things like that. So tell us kind of what you recommend someone who wants to get started does. Like what advice do you have for them, or how would you tell them to look for a gym, or what to look for?
I think like first off, just letting, people know that you belong in that space and that you belong in relationship, like with your body, like period. So, and making sure that you find and do your research and find a gym that you can align with, like with their core values. Like what are their core values? So if you're trying to find that inner strength of being like, because it's intimidating. It can be so intimidating going into a gym space. Like, well, I don't look like that. I don't give a shit about that. Like, like there's all these things. But if you can just try to block out and just try to hold on to this version of yourself that's terrified and be like, yeah, this is scary. Okay, Roger, validated. But we do belong. Like we need to move forward. We need to move into this, and for our health and for our well-being, and just holding strong to your why you're going in there.
Yeah.
And so just find and sit with that and validate your fears, but also know that you belong into moving forward and finding a place that you can align with their core values. So
what would you say to someone who's like, well, I don't want to do strength training. I'm doing enough. I'm running and I'm doing Pilates. I don't need to do strength. Like, what do you say to that person?
That, it's really important. Like you can't just choose one, like that's too comfortable. Like if you're too comfortable in that, unfortunately our bodies are designed to run. We got to run. Our little energy systems, the mitochondria in your cells, like are designed, their little energy systems, and they need to be stimulated. I know. I was like,
she's doing like a shuffle.
Yeah, they're like these
out the
cute little guys that are just in your cells. And if you deal with like fatigue and stuff, like you really have to sit down and look at things holistically. Like, can you carry your groceries? Like, can you put your suitcase in the overhead compartment?
Without throwing your back out. Yeah.
Without throwing your back out. How's your back feel? How are your knees? Stuff like that. It's like, we can't just choose one lane and do that only. And we have to kind of have a holistic approach to movement. What's your bone density? What's your muscle ratio in your body? Like we need to look at that and really have some things that do hold us accountable to the longevity, like what is longevity, and just sitting down with people, helping them understand what's important to them, like what is important to you, and then help them see like why you need a little bit of everything. Pilates is great. Yoga is fine. Running is great. Like we need it. We need a little bit of cardio. We need cardio. Why? Our heart. Like, what's the big deal? Well, because your heart, it's a big deal. So just helping people understand that.
you can't be in a fixed mindset about longevity. You have to have multiple modalities. And I feel like all of a sudden, again, it kind of goes back to that red car phenomenon of like, is it because I'm strength training with you that now I see a lot of research on strength training? You know, the whole like, did I buy a red car and that's why every car looks red on the street now? But I feel like the making the telegram noise that's across the desk.
Oh, it's
the data's in. Like it's really good for you.
So strong. Yeah,
it's very important.
Yes. Very important for longevity.
Yes.
If you want to be here, if you don't want to, break a hip, and the mortality, if you break a hip, like when you're 60, 65, like is pretty strong.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
So I want to go back to when you said something, and this advice is probably for myself, anyone else who's ever felt intimidated by meathead gyms, which are most of them. So your advice was really good. Find a gym or a trainer that you align with their core values. Would you recommend someone approach gyms or trainers and say, what are your, like just straight out ask?
Heck yeah.
What are your core values?
Interview 3 to 5 coaches.
Yeah.
Go in there and interview them. Like we should be interviewing our doctors. We should be interviewing our therapists.
Multiple
stuff like that.
opinions.
Get in multiple, and just see what their core values are. Number 1, sit down with yourself and write your core values out. Okay. Do that. Number 2, then yes, interview 2 to 3, 5, coaches and then see what their core values are and just see if they align. And see if they're rooted in longevity, strength, meeting you where you're at. What kind of assessments do they do? Are they are they able to be dynamic with their training based on your injuries? What are their knowledge? Like what are they rooted in?
Yeah.
Who are they aligned with, like education wise? Yeah. So totally do that. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, because it's a big investment. It's a
huge investment.
It's a monetary investment, and it's a big investment you're taking in your time and yourself. And so and like we've talked about throughout this episode now, you do spend so much time with them too that it needs to be a person that you like.
Yeah.
That you can you don't have to cry at the gym like me, but like
Most people do. Most people do. Yeah, and you don't want to find do not choose a personal trainer that you think that you want to look like them.
Yeah.
You will never look like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Off the bat.
And that's discouraging more than it's inspiring.
Your body is your body.
Yeah.
And if you lean into a holistic approach of movement, your body will be a result of your lifestyle. It's not a result of your trainer, what their body looks like.
Right.
Yes.
You will not look like them.
That's such a good point.
Ever.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
Let's end with dreaming big. I know you're a dreamer. You got your here they are. You got your Arizona,
Wild
Earth child in you.
Spirit. Yeah.
So if you had no boundaries, so money's not an issue, you can do whatever you want with all of your training and your education and your expertise in this space. What does that look like for you?
What would I do?
Yeah, what would you do?
Or add.
Yeah. Or what would Strength Sanctuary look like in 5 years if there were no obstacles to growth? Or would it be something completely different? Would you be a pop star?
Oh man, I think I would just pour so much I already do, just pour so much time into my education that I think that I'd potentially go back to school, and continue to maybe pursue that physical therapist, some portion of that.
Yeah.
Continue to become I call myself a scientist because I'm just running constant experiments on people. So maybe pouring into just educating more, getting educated more.
I love that.
And I would love to travel more and just continue to stay in that. But I think just going around the world and kind of seeing how are other countries and people moving their body.
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful ways of I have some coaches that I used to work with. They're in Bali right now. And so they're digital nomads. Train with Holly and Aaron is their Instagram handle. And they are digital nomads. They built a business online. And so now I used to work with them. And now they're traveling all over the world, just seeing how other people like move their body.
Wow.
And
That's
just
awesome.
experiencing like, now they're in Bali and they're doing like this cool like jujitsu or some kind of like something or other.
Wow.
And,
It's like an eat, pray, love fitness.
Yeah.
yes, one of my favorite movies. But yes, something like that.
That's really
so I think
cool.
that'd be really cool.
I
Just
could
going
also
around.
see you just being like, okay, I'm gonna go live in a monastery and like be a monk and meditate for a month,
Man.
and give
Yeah.
I could see you doing that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that answer. We're manifesting that for you, Vanessa.
Thanks.
Not the monastery part, but
No.
yeah,
The previous part.
the previous part.
Well, this has been awesome.
Exploring.
Yes,
This
it
has been
has.
wonderful. Where can the listeners find you? Is there anything that you would like our listeners to know about you, where they can find you on Instagram or anything?
Yeah. If you're looking for a great community of like-minded, seekers of wellness and all things, I have a website. What is it? strength-sanctuary.com. And then my Instagram
Is at Strength Sanctuary TN for Tennessee.
Yes.
Strength Sanctuary TN.
And we'll add everything to the description of the episode if you didn't follow us, just kind of fumbling through that,
Yes.
because we
So,
tend
yeah,
to do
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll add it.
Yeah, I tend to do that too.
Are you taking new clients right now?
Yeah,
Yeah?
definitely.
Great.
Taking new clients.
Do I get to interview
And-
all of them?
Yeah, they got to come through, Annie.
Just kidding, guys.
Yeah. And so we offer the process of coming into my gym is I like to meet with you and just sit with you in like whatever your goals are, and just kind of looking at how your body moves, and then doing some one-on-ones with you, equipping you with the tools that help you feel comfortable in a space where you transition into training with a small group, which is like 3 to 5 people at a time. And you have your own program that you're following and going through. It's really important for me to empower and equip my clients that they're not becoming codependent on me. And I'm empowering them to feel at some point that they're capable of going into any gym, anywhere, traveling the world, and they feel like they have a good connection, understanding of how they need to move their body.
That's awesome.
Helping them really establish that to where I might be working myself out of a job because I've just empowered and they know how to move their body well. And so I just try to get clients, with that. And then we also have recovery modalities at our gym, the cold plunge, the sauna, the infrared sauna, that helps clients, have that balance of we're not going 100% all the time. So there are days where people just come in and just do sauna and plunge.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
We loved this.
Yeah, this was
was
great. Round
Yes.
2. Awesome.
I mean, this trilogy is going to be better than like the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I agree.
yeah, I
No
said
imposter
it.
syndrome.
You heard it here first.
She said it. This has been wonderful. Follow us at Great Imposters Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Great Imposters Podcast at gmail.com.
Yep. No, we're like Facebook. We dropped the.
We dropped
for our
the. It's
socials
just
and our
Great
email.
Imposters Podcast. Give us all the things. Like, subscribe on YouTube. We're asking.
We're asking.
Here we are. We're asking.
We're asking. It's
We're
hard for
doing
me,
it.
but
I
we're
know.
asking.
We're doing it.
And we drop episodes every Tuesday. We're about to actually wrap our first season and do some content brainstorming. So we'll have a little bit of a hiatus, but this will be episode 15,
No.
14.
14.
This will be between episode 13 and 15. So go back and listen.
Yes. This has been Joelle.
This has been Annie.
And Vanessa.
And we will see you next time.
Thanks, y'all.